and it's coming from the state of Manipur. Sadly, Manipur doesn't make it to the prime time news as often as it should. But today, shocking visuals that have come in from the state have really forced news channels, hopefully, to once again turn the gaze on Manipur. We are hearing that 8 people have now been killed, dozen others have been injured in what is sectarian violence that is now spreading across the state. Widespread arson witnessed in Churachundpur district, with the houses of a state minister, an MP and 5 MLAs being set on fire. We're also told of instances of hate crime where we're being told that property as well as establishments belonging to outsiders are being targeted. This during a 12-hour Bandh that has been called by tribal student organizations in protest against 3 bills passed by the Manipur Assembly over allowing outsiders, as they are being called, in protected areas. The targeted attacks have already now resulted in an exodus by migrant workers. It's the inner line permit issue. Let's for a moment pause and just explain what is this issue that is forcing Manipur into this chaotic situation. The violence has started after a document was issued by the government to allow travel into protected areas or inner line permits. Is a British era document. It is still used to protect tribal cultures of the northeast, not enforced in Manipur. The locals want the inner line permit to be implemented to protect local jobs. The agitation is based on a belief that an influx of outsiders has taken away jobs. Why is Manipur burning? Is the question that I want to raise at the moment. Joining me now in the studio is Veena Lakshmi Nepram, who's been agitating on gender right issues and issues of violence concerning people in the northeast and beyond. Kishaloi Bhattacharjee, author and journalist, who's written more than 1 book now on the northeast. His 2nd book will be out. Kiran Rejuju, the country's Minister of State for Home, will join us shortly. But Veena Lakshmi Nepram, as I play those images, there will be people in this country who will suddenly wonder why at 9 PM on prime time is Manipur making the headlines. The fact is, these images are not new. They've been happening over the last 30-40 years, sporadic violence. Now it seems to be more organized and targeted against outsiders. Why is Manipur burning?
Rajdeep, the whole issue, Manipur is a state with about 22,000 square kilometers of land, out of which 90% is hills and about just a few 10% is valley area. But 60% of the population of Manipur resides in this particular area. So for a long time there has been concerns of what is happening is from 1948 till 2015 now, 400% increase in migrant population is what the Joint Committee on Inner Line Permit is saying to many people. So there is this fear of outsiders influx. Now, how do we define outsiders? Outsiders is not, so right now the Joint Committee is saying, they are talking about the influx of Burmese population, influx of Bangladeshi population, and influx from other parts of India, which they are feeling is now more than, is the 2nd highest population in the state. So basically, Rajdeep, it's a fear factor. Right now what's happening is, for the last 2 months, Manipur has been burning. Only today, again, your channel has brought this issue up, because yesterday, very tragic, our hearts go out to the people in Churachandpur now, where 8 lives have been lost. And the government has used violence to contain it. They have shot at protesters, which is terribly wrong, all right? But at the same time, all we are appealing is, this is an issue which can be resolved. Here are the copies of the bills passed in the Manipur Assembly yesterday. And right now here, the bill does not affect the rights of the tribal population, as it said, because the hill areas are protected by a special law. Only 4 districts of the valley area plus a section of Churachandpur is affected.
So inner line permit will only apply
right
in a
now,
sense to the non-tribal areas. They will not apply to the tribal areas. Am I correct? That outsiders, the restrictions that will be posed on outsiders will now apply for the non-tribal areas?
No, it's not that. The inner line permit is supposed to protect the whole population of Manipur. It's not tribals versus non-tribals.
But it is becoming that, isn't it? Becoming,
that is why,
no, just a minute. Isn't it becoming, Kishaloi, somewhere tribals versus non-tribals? Also tribals versus the so-called outsiders, who could include Manipuris, Meetais, or it could include also groups that have come in from the outside. Those images that are playing out. Do you believe that this has been a failure to understand the gravity of the issue? Is that where the failure lies? Because this has been boiling now for 40 to 50 days.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, that the government has completely failed in actually taking all these groups, putting them on the table and then, drafting this bill. So they passed this bill in the assembly. The perceived fear of these, of the tribal groups, particularly what you see in Churachandpur, is that they say that this bill is not the government's attempt to protect Manipur from outsiders. They feel that this is an infringement on tribal rights, and actually there is a cut-off date of 1951 in the valley, according to this bill. A lot of tribals have moved and purchased land after 1951 in the valley. There is also this problem out there where the tribals can buy land in the valley, but the valley people cannot buy land in the hills. So there is this, there is the friction. It's a very polarized place. I mean, however much we may try and say they all live together, there is the hill-valley divide is very sharp and deep out there, and this has come out. Is
it a sense, therefore, that the hill people feel that the people of the valley will overrun them, or the outsiders will overrun them? What is the government supposed to do in such a situation? How does the government play the role of a neutral umpire? These are all Indian citizens. Let's be clear. As of now, in most cases, those who died are Indian citizens. Innocent people have died in the crossfire. And the people who are now fighting with each other, in a sense, are all Indian citizens on both sides. Many of them are Bihari migrants who are today leaving their homes. So how does the government play a role of a neutral umpire? Is it possible?
It is possible if the government had taken all the stakeholders before drafting the bill. This is what the groups are alleging. They are saying that, well, you wanted to draft a bill, why didn't you discuss with us? How did you accept the view of the majority community and draft a bill? This is the contention of the tribal groups, at least in Churachandpur. And that is why they have burned down the houses of their own legislators, because they feel that their own legislators failed to defend their point of view in the assembly when it was passed. It was passed without a debate. They said that what were you guys doing? They are not concerned about the ILP or what ILP actually constitutes, about not letting outsiders come in out there, buy land or settle down. Also, there is a genuine problem in the valley, Rajdeep, and according to the last census, the number of outsiders, now this is very difficult to define, but outsiders which are non-Manipuris is about 7,10,000, and the number of Meitei without the Pangals are the Meitei Muslims, if you don't count them, then it's 7,50,000. So they are just 40,000 more than the number of outsiders, isn't it?
But you've got a state which is already benighted in various ways. This is a state which has already gone through insurgency. I was there a couple of weeks ago and I was told there are 65 today militant groups, small and large. This is a state which in itself, has self-destructed in some ways. Now the last thing that you want in a state like this is to pit tribal versus non-tribal.
Absolutely.
I mean, where is the good sense? What about civil society? Why is civil society in Manipur not rising up? For 40 days no schools have been there, there has been curfew. Every night there are protests, there is violence. Prices of commodities are rising astronomically. Why is civil society not waking up in Manipur to the crisis of the state?
I think Rajdeep, civil society is extremely active in Manipur, particularly women's groups. We have been working with different ethnic communities, whether it's Kukis or Nagas, over the past 5 years, to bring a sanity in the issue.
But I haven't seen the sanity in the last 40-45 days. This may well be when it has come to issues like the armed forces.
Women have been in
Why am I not seeing, when the homes today, as we are showing those pictures of ministers and MLAs are being burnt in that state, in any other state today, either the government would intervene immediately or civil society would rise. I sense a vacuum on both sides. The government seems powerless and civil society seems powerless.
For the past 40 days, 2 months now, since the killing of Sapam Robin Hood, there has been the kind of protest which has been done by a lot. The civil society have been taking part in the protest. So we cannot say it's one of the most active civil society in the entire country. It's in Manipur. Let me be very clear. But what is happening, let me tell you. The Joint Action Committee on the Inner Line Permit, they were operationalized since 1980. Before that, in 1980 was the first time they feel that the fear factor was there. They met even over the years. They even met in the last couple of years, Mr. Shinde, the Home Minister. They met many of the Government of India officials who say, we are worried about the influx. We're citizens, but they are worried about the influx. please do something about it, which Kishore said. Nothing was there. The Joint Committee on Inland Permit was formed. They've been agitating since 2012.
So they've been buying time. The government has tried to buy time.
Government has not responded to civil society response, hence the protest. And again, unfortunately, in Churachandpur, it became very violent with the burning of legislators and parliamentarian house.
This is a complex issue. There are no easy arguments when it comes to the entire issue of who is the outsider. It happens in Mumbai, where you will have a Raj Thackeray today who will say he wants to drive out Biharis. It's happening in other parts of the country. This whole day, Indians being pitted against fellow Indians. The point I'm trying to understand, Kishore, is there an easy solution to it, or is this far too complex because of the demographics of the state of Manipur in particular? That's the final word I want from you.
Well, Rajdeep, if you want to make it complicated and difficult, if we want to do it, it's very easy to, say that it's very layered and complicated. But I think this also throws up an opportunity in front of the country to debate what do we define by indigenous people and indigenous rights? What is the definition of an outsider? When the Constitution guarantees a single citizenship, what stops an Indian citizen from traveling anywhere and carrying out an occupation or residing in that place under the provisions of whatever? That needs to be. I think the country now needs to debate, taking off from the Manipur situation of what is indigenous.
I want to know, does the country want to even debate Manipur? Or is Manipur simply going to fall off the map? Even doing this program, there will be producers of mine who will say, you will lose television rating points. Why are you covering Manipur? You should be covering at the top for 1 hour Sheena's murder mystery. Do you believe, and that's the final word from you, as a Manipuri, that the national media doesn't care? And that sense of lack of care also permeates to our governments, whether in Delhi or even in Imphal. That today nobody really cares. It is not, there isn't that sense of anger and anguish that would exist in another part of the country if 8 people were dead.
Absolutely, Rajdeep. I think you're right. In fact, for the last 2 months, Manipur did fall out of the map of this country, not just from the media, but even from policy makers. None responded when for 40 days schools were closed, when our lives were just stopped and there was a complete lockdown. The point is, Manipur is home to over 39 ethnic groups. Okay, and for the past few, Manipur is one of the most beautiful, kingdoms that we had in this particular part of the country. But for the last 20 years, there have been repeated attempts to divide the people of the state. Repeated attempts. Groups have been armed. There's a massive proliferation of arms in this community, resulting.
That's the other point. That this is an area with a massive amount of arms that exists. Quick 30 seconds. Quick 30 seconds. I'm running out of time.
It has the worst police record in the country. 2% is its conviction rate. Law and order situation is completely collapsed. Governance has collapsed. And Rajdeep, in defense of media, it's not just the national media. I think the intelligentsia across the country, the academia, everybody has forgotten this part of the country.
Which is why I'm going to ask you, the viewers, do you really care about what happens in Manipur? Should we not make this the big story of our times? That's the question that you, the viewers, have to ask. And we have to ask our policy makers. Are you not concerned when the homes of MLAs and ministers are burned down, and when innocents are dying in hate crimes, when people are being forced to leave Manipur, Bihari migrants are being forced to leave the state? Will it require this for the media to focus on the issue, and what will it take for our policy makers to bring normalcy of any kind to the state of Manipur? Veena Lakshmi, Nepram, Kishore Bhattacharjee, I appreciate your joining us.